Keith Sadies returns to Attack on Titan, and it turns out his involvement with the main story goes a little further than just being a hard-ass drill instructor. Hello my friends, after a little break, Attack on Titan returns with another fantastic episode, which gives us absolutely no answers as to how this entire world works, but we do get to learn something pretty damn important, and that's that Keith Sadies, the drill instructor from the beginning of Attack on Titan, the hard-ass who taught Eren and all of his friends, actually has a pretty complex history with Eren and his father, Grisha, and it's getting us this much closer to learning what the whole deal is with the world of Attack on Titan. What's really interesting about this episode, however, is that we go into a little mini time skip. It's been a couple of months since Historia was crowned the brand new queen of this newly formed government, and so far things are looking on the up and up. Not only has morale improved, but they're actually utilizing the power of those crystals and giving it to the people, effectively giving them a brand new form of electricity. Not only that, but all of the corrupted people in the government have officially been given the boot. Most importantly, Historia seems to have mellowed out quite a bit after her big declaration that all of mankind should be wiped out. Basically, she was just sort of saying this in the heat of the moment, and there's a really great moment between her and Eren, which is suddenly interrupted by Mikasa, and this entire scene can be interpreted a number of different ways. One, it's just Mikasa being Mikasa, which is looking out for Eren and not wanting him to overexert himself because he's been utilizing his brand new Titan abilities to try and close up the walls, which takes a massive toll and leads to a lot of bloody noses. Or there's just the fact that Mikasa does not like seeing Eren with another woman. You interpret it the way you want. Either way, it's a pretty funny scene, intentional or unintentional. It made me laugh. Another development that I really enjoyed is that they seem to be making some brand new weapons to take out Titans. Now they're doing something which is honestly a little more archaic, but actually seems to be more effective. You think that a bunch of cannons would be able to just destroy these things, but actually it's all about precision when it comes to killing the Titans, and they've come up with what basically Arnold Schwarzenegger used in The Predator, which is just to drop logs on these assholes. They come up with these like giant battering ram logs that they hold over the sides of the edge of the wall, they lure in the Titans, they drop it on its neck, and it absolutely fucks their shit up. It's really freaking awesome, and this combined with Eren now being able to use his hardening abilities allows him to sort of close up the wall, and it also uses it as bait to sort of drive in more Titans. Although, like I said, the more he tends to use this ability, the more it takes a toll on his actual human body, to the point where he starts to bleed directly out of his nose. Of course, Eren, being the character that he is, doesn't really give a shit as long as it means that humanity is going to conquer the Titans. But the biggest development from this episode is actually diving a little bit more into the backstory of Grisha Ager, the father of Eren, and this is all going to be connected to the character of Keith Sadies, a character that honestly I thought that we were never going to see again, if only for maybe a small cameo. Originally, his part in the series was just to be this like Arlie Ermy type character, a drill instructor who is going to teach all of these young cadets what it means to be a scout or be one of the inner city police, and he was known for always just being very rough around the edges and always looking really strung the hell out. I just assumed that's because this guy has seen a lot of shit, and it's true. He's seen a lot of crazy things, to the point where he was with Grisha during some of the biggest developmental moments of the entire series. Case in point, when Eren was transformed into a Titan the very first time. The problem is, while he was present for a lot of these events, he doesn't really know the finer details, and he actually manages to tell everybody this amazing story, which really gives them no answers, but it gives us, the viewer, a firmer appreciation for these characters. One of my favorite things about this episode is how they give Keith a surprising amount of development in a very short amount of time. What's always been known about the character is that he's extremely overconfident and, dare I say, arrogant, but a lot of that only has to do with the fact that he has this sort of like weird inferiority complex where he really just wants to be one of the special chosen ones. He wants to be special amongst the group, people like Levi, Hanji, Erwin, but at the end of the day, he never quite lives up to those expectations, and he feels like, in a way, it's something that should be given to him now that he does have the title of soldier, and it comes to a lot of events in the series, and eventually meeting Grisha, and of course the birth of Eren, where he finally starts to realize that he's really not all that special in the first place, and despite the fact that he wears a uniform and can fly around the city like goddamn Spider-Man, it doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. His complex of building up his very own ego is ultimately the thing that makes him one of the most interesting and intriguing and deep characters that I've actually seen from the show, and in many ways, he's kind of like this dark parallel of Eren, something that I thought was really fascinating about this episode. There are these two characters who, being in the military to them is one of the most important things. It's one of the things that sort of bolsters their strength, and what I think is really interesting is how Keith desperately wants to be seen as someone who truly is special, and Eren really has no problem with being the second fiddle as long as he knows that he's going to be a stepping stone to making humanity a better place. It takes a village. That's the mindset of Eren when compared to someone like Keith, who had adorations of maybe being the main hero in the story, but ultimately it never really led to anything. And this is all tied into his backstory of meeting Grisha Ager, who apparently was just some dude who appeared outside the walls with amnesia. That's what we know so far. We get to go through like little parts of his backstory of him actually meeting his wife for the very first time, who is a very attractive waitress, I do have to say. He became an accomplished doctor, and the reason that he actually fell in love with his wife is because he actually saved her from some form of plague that was attacking everyone. They started a family, they had a son, and then eventually the Titans came into town and fucked all sorts of shit up. But the most pivotal thing about all of this is that Keith was sort of around for all of these events. He was good friends with Grisha. He was acquainted with their family, and he was even there in that moment where Grisha decided that he was going to turn his son into a Titan and allow him to consume himself to take all of that power. But Keith was never around to witness these events, but he was the one who found Eren after he had transformed and brought him back. It's really interesting how we got so many answers, and yet we didn't get any at all at the same time. Normally I would be pissed off by these type of events, but the way that it's actually portrayed in this episode was just, I don't know, it just sort of sucked me in the entire time, and there even was some room for some smaller character moments throughout the entire episode, whether it be John being just a dickhead as always, or even just the reunion between Sasha and Keith, which I thought was great because, of course, Sasha is still absolutely horrified of this man. I mean, remember all of the events where she tried to sneak some potatoes? So let's boil it down a little bit more in the rundown of this week's episode of Attack on Titan. We needed an episode like this. The last couple of episodes have been dramatically intense and a big turning point for the series, with Historia being the queen and the inevitability that the giant beast titan, Reiner and Bertholdt, are eventually going to return. I think having them being introduced right now would be sort of a detriment to the show, as we're getting this much closer to some very important answers, and really it's only a matter of time before we go back to that mysterious basement and learn possibly about the origins of the Titans. But this episode right here manages to take a break, show us that the characters are improving thanks to their new government, and learning a big startling truth about Keith, which I honestly thought was the best thing about this episode. Like I said, I thought he was a one-off character, we'd never see him again, but no, this episode not only gave him a tremendous amount of character, but made him instrumental to the very pillars of this story right here, as well as getting some nice glimpses into Grisha's backstory, which it's amazing how much more we learned about his character, and yet we learned nothing. That's what's really great about this episode. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next in the show. It's going to be pretty freaking awesome. Production value-wise, pretty great looking episode right here. Still carrying that Attack on Titan style. And I really loved all of the flashback sequences, getting to see a more peaceful version of the Attack on Titan world, getting to see these younger characters, and of course, that big final moment, which I thought was really great, where when Keith actually came back into town and he found Eren and his mother, and he was just sort of upset over the fact that everybody was just complacent with these people constantly going out in the world and killing themselves, and he felt that they should be revered as heroes, people who should be looked up to all the time, and these people have no right to complain about anything because they're just commoners. There's nothing special about them, and they have no chance of being the chosen one in his perfect world. But for Eren's mother, it's not a big deal at all. She doesn't sort of put this pressure on her son. It doesn't matter to her if Eren ends up becoming super special or the ultimate person in the world. The fact that he was simply born in this world makes him special enough, and eventually this is all imparted to him by his father, giving him his brand new destiny. As Keith says, it sets it ablaze. It's pretty freaking epic right there. So let's put a stamp on this one right here. This was a solid addition to the Attack on Titan series, giving us some solid characterization to a character that really didn't need it, but honestly ended up being incredibly intriguing, and of course getting ready to build up the next big part of the story, which, guys, I'm just so freaking excited for. I'm still so glad that I don't read the manga version of Attack on Titan, because this stuff would just be completely ruined, and probably wouldn't have made this episode as entertaining as it was. Being surprised every single time we get some more information about the show is honestly what keeps me going. That with the amazing freaking production value and the fantastic characters. This is a great show that will go down as a timeless anime classic without a freaking doubt. This was a great episode of Attack on Titan, which is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I had no complaints with this episode. I got a lot of enjoyment out of this one, and I can't wait to see what's next for Eren and his friends. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Did any of you watch this episode of Attack on Titan? Tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of the Attack on Titan anime series. Let's get a discussion going, and make sure to check out the channel for tons of other anime reviews. Guys, this might be the most jam-packed anime season I have seen in years. There is some fantastic content out there, so make sure to stay tuned for the channel so you can see all of those videos as they are released. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down, baby.